back, folks. Welcome back to what we'll now call from now on Amped Up with Cliff Schechter, just like the one on Thursday, the one that's on Substack. But today, StreamYard version. We are pleased to have you all here. Excited. Lots to talk about. We've got some great guests coming on, or a great guest. We've got David Schuster, per usual, which is awesome. And we have a friend of mine, longtime friend of mine, and a fantastic congressman named Greg Landsman, who will be joining us. I've known Greg for years before he was even a congressman and city councilman. We worked on campaigns together and all of that. So that should be a really cool conversation. We can find out what's going on with the shutdown, what's going on, why Republicans seem to have chugged antifreeze for the better part of the last decade. You know, the questions that we all have. Hey, wrong camera. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. That can be fixed. That wasn't the way to fix it. FaceTime camera. There we go. Hey, look at that. Cool. I wasn't even doing like a rant of any sort. The up nose view. Did you see anything up there, Amethyst Tony, that you didn't like? Sorry, I try to keep my everything in order there, if you know what I'm saying. Okay. So the camera angle and Alfred Hitchcock reference, of course, Jim, always. Rear view mirror, Psycho, Vertigo. Really, it's everything that we have these days due to Republicans. And Republicans are now trying to invade the North by Northwest with their troops, aren't they? So yeah, we could keep those going on forever. What is really frustrating me right now? Hey, David Schuster's telling me I didn't send him a StreamYard link, and that seems like a really not nice thing for me to do. So hold on, guys. We're going to get that to David because it just feels like a jerkish move. Oops, hadn't sent, was in drafts. Yeah, folks, mistakes are made. Unlike at least in government, nobody suffers and we don't blame other people. So there's a lot going on, right? We've got a 218th vote, as we had talked about. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the name right. Adelita Grijalva, who should be seated. Mike Johnson, the little porn monitor, who, whatever happened to that guy sharing his alleged Grindr account? I never heard, never happened. Had a lot of fun last Thursday if you watched with Joe Walsh, with many references laughing about it. But we do know that he's his son's little porn monitor. And when it comes to democracy, he's the hall monitor who wants to end it for Donald Trump because he's such a weak little, oh God, if there's ever been a beta, wimpy, wussy guy in the world, it's that guy. He has no courage to stand up to Trump. He should have... Obviously, he found a way during these sort of pro forma sessions to swear in the two Republicans elected in Florida as members of Congress in special elections. But God forbid he do that for Democrats. You wouldn't want to do that. When we get that 218th vote, as you know, then there's the Epstein vote. So he's kissing Trump's butt on that. He's not holding Trump accountable for anything. I mean, we're at a point where it's just open bribery. Open emoluments violations, open Hatch Act violations. And we've been there for a while, but it's gotten even worse. Open power grabs of the purse that don't exist. The president should only have as emergency powers. There is no emergency, but he's grabbing tariffs. He's really at this point violating posse comitatus. It's not even a sort of, and putting troops in our streets. That's crossing the Rubicon. He should have his ass sent to a military prison for that, quite frankly. And the numerous other ways he is violating the law. David Schuster just got here. I thought I'd bring up a really interesting point as I invite David in. Hello, David.
How you doing?
You like my new little? I decided to wear the cool big headphones. I look like a real radio guy today.
Looks good.
I went on with Bob Seska earlier. He's a real radio guy. So shout out to Bob, and for all you guys out there, Bob. And so I figured, what the hell. But I don't know if you saw, because you, I think, were the first person that I saw do this as it should have been done, which is the New York Bar Association referred to the attacks on Venezuelan boats as murder.
Yep.
They called it murder. That, again, Explain to people, the New York Bar Association are the type of people that would be embarrassed if they sneeze and they didn't say type times. I mean, that they have been willing to refer to that. And David was early on this, on how there's no powers that Donald Trump has to bomb boats with no evidence. Seemingly, in some cases, there are others where I think one of our friends, Jonathan Larson, said there may have been some evidence they were running drugs, although that's not a death sentence either. We have this weird thing where we actually arrest people and they get due process and stuff. But others most likely have not, and we've just committed murder. Well, that's the New York Bar Association is calling it. What do you think, David?
Good for them. I mean, don't get me, get me started on this because, as we've been pointing out, if Donald Trump feels that these boats need to be treated as enemy combatants, that we're in a war, he needs to go to Congress and get a declaration of war and get their approval. He has not done that, and so.
Or like under the War Powers Act, he could go and get like 90 days or something, right? Like he hasn't done any of that.
There's an argument that, the president has the authority to take military action if there's an imminent threat to the United States. These boats are thousands of miles away from the United States, maybe not thousands, but certainly several hundred miles away from the United States. And to your point, I mean, are they narco-terrorists? Who knows? But there's been no evidence that's been presented. And if this is a law enforcement operation because of the fentanyl that's coming in the United States, which, look, we all abhor that fentanyl is coming in the United States, but there are drugs. There's fentanyl coming in the United States every day off the coast of Miami. We're not blowing up yachts at the coast of Miami because they're smuggling drugs. We are boarding them. We're giving them a chance to surrender. And then we're doing some searches and trying to figure out where the drugs are coming from. None of that is happening in the case of what's going on in Venezuela. And you mentioned Jonathan Larson, and this is where I think it gets so remarkable. Cliff, do you remember before the Iraq War, the Bush-Cheney administration relied on a CIA asset named
Curveball? I knew that's where you were headed with that one, yes.
And Curveball was this guy who claimed to have worked for Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction. He claimed that he was in Germany, and I can't remember if CIA paid him or not, but the Bush-Cheney administration used his claims as some of their evidence for why we needed to go to the war. Because look, Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction, and it turns out that Curveball had some political motives to want to see Saddam Hussein deposed. He was making this stuff up. Well, we're doing the same thing now with Venezuela. Jonathan Larson has been reporting that the two sources that Trump is relying upon for the Maduro regime already engaged in this sort of covert war against the United States, these are people who have financial and political interests in Maduro being deposed. If Maduro gets overthrown, these people stand to make a lot of money. Some of the claims from these people have already been disproven. The claims include that Venezuela and Smartmatic and these election machines help throw the election in 20. I mean, the stuff is crazy.
Was it like the ghost of Hugo Chavez? Or I'm not even joking. Like they somehow connected Hugo Chavez to it. The dude's been dead a decade.
For a possible war with Venezuela, this is the crap that Donald Trump is relying on. I mean, my God, Congress. I mean, Congress should be having oversight over the military attacks, but also they should be demanding the Trump administration provide their intelligence. Who are you basing this stuff on for a possible war with Venezuela? What is this based on?
Right. Well, here's the thing. They don't believe. I mean, Mike Johnson. The contempt I have for Mike Johnson is endless. And I don't think, he has, I mean, obviously he's not going to conduct oversight on anything. I mean, they're not conducting oversight when it came to this ridiculous bill that I'm sure most of which came from Trump, or at least the things Trump cared about came from Trump, their stupid BBB bill. He hasn't conducted oversight on the violations of emoluments clauses. He hasn't conducted oversight on the violations of the Hatch Act, though they do that all the time anyhow. Mike Johnson and others, that seems to now be just gone. They've erased it from our democratic culture, which is a problem for the future. They don't conduct oversight on his grabbing power over the purse, tariffs, and that kind of thing on fake emergencies. They haven't conducted oversight on his sending troops into our cities and directly violating posse comitatus, which is about as serious a violation of our law when you understand how Rome fell and you understand what it is to send a military in to police your own population. They're not police. They can't be police. There will be a provocation. People will die. And that may include, by the way, members of the National Guard, some of whom will, if they conduct some of these exercises they don't want to end up killing someone, will probably end up committing suicide or that kind of, I mean, it's just, he wants his provocation. And I mean, Mike Johnson is literally, I don't know how else to, I mean, he should be just drawn as like an appendage attached to Trump. Like that's all he is. There's no oversight on anything. The House, honestly, right now, may as well not exist, at least the Republican version of it. The only thing we're getting is the fact that we've elected Adelita, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Grijalva, and of course, even though during a pro forma session, which I can't do it during a pro forma session. Well, he did that with the two Republicans one in Florida. He's a lying sack of shit, which for a man who professes to be a believer in Jesus, I don't believe Jesus counseled in that kind of thing. But then again, Jesus also didn't counsel to monitor your son's porn or to take rights away from women or to hurt the poor and hurt immigrants. So maybe Mike wants to become reacquainted with that book he claims to love so much. I mean.
It's so interesting you mentioned Grijalva because, the big, I guess, testimony this week on Capitol Hill was Attorney General Pam Bondi appearing before the Senate. And of course, as you pointed out, Grijalva would make the 218th signature to force a vote in the House on releasing the Epstein files. I have to say, Cliff, that I was one of these people who wasn't really certain. Is there really stuff in the Epstein files? Is Donald Trump trying to cover this up because he's not sure? And so you would think that, if there were no pictures, if there were no lewd pictures of Donald Trump with topless young girls, and even though Michael Wolff said Jeffrey Epstein showed these to him, if these pictures had been destroyed, if they're not in the files, you would think that the Attorney General, when asked about this in front of the Senate, would say, no, these don't exist. She was asked, have you seen them? Do you know what the status is? And she refused to answer the question.
Yep.
If this
and numerous others like that about the files, but that one you're right, very specifically.
If this stuff is not there, even if the Department of Justice destroyed them, you would think the Attorney General will come out and say, these pictures are not there, they're not in the files, this is salacious, this is wrong. She didn't say any of that. And so for the first time I thought, God, maybe there's a really good chance that these lewd photographs of Trump are in the FBI files, because how else can you explain why Pam Bondi would dodge this? Right. I mean, I think Pam Bondi is realizing that in another administration, if it turns out that she lied to Congress, that she could go to jail for lying to Congress.
Yeah, I mean, she allegedly, from things she said, she perjured herself.
Yeah, so, I mean, there must be somebody within the Department of Justice or within the FBI who has seen these photographs, who knows they exist, and Pam Bondi's either terrified that, in fact, if she says they don't exist and the photos are released, or whistleblowers come and say, no, Pam Bondi ordered them destroyed, she's in a world of hurt. But I'm thinking, oh my God, this Epstein stuff may be the big reveal that a lot of people seem to suggest.
I think it is. And I think for numerous reasons. It's because of everybody's reaction to it. It's because Trump seems so scared of it. It's because some of the others, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, that have turned on him, makes me think they know something, and they wouldn't turn on him, and they're seeing weakness and they're scared for their own careers. And then on top of it, what you just mentioned, like Kash Patel wouldn't answer certain questions too.
Yeah.
But while we're talking about members of Congress asking people questions, we have a member of Congress with us, and I thought we might just have Congressman. It's still so hard for me to say that. Greg Landsman. Not hard because Greg didn't earn it. Greg is awesome. And
correct me if I'm wrong, Cliff. You guys first met when Greg was on the city council?
I think we met. We met before you were in the city council, didn't we, Greg?
Yeah, because our kids went to the same school, and didn't they share like a?
Yeah, so that's right. His daughter Maddie and my son Luke, who's now a sophomore. So just to give you an idea, in pre-K, they shared a cubby together. And that's how we first met. And then we realized that, Cincinnati, that's a city of 320,000 or whatever for you. It ain't Chicago. And it was that. And then we realized we both were involved in politics in various ways. And I was a loudmouth, and Greg was a much more tempered, intelligent person. So I'd be the one to loudmouth my way on a show, and he'd be the one to run for Congress and represent us. And there we go.
There you go.
And by the way, I should point out, I mean, Greg, you're something of a giant slayer because you beat Steve Chabot back in 2022, who had served for 15 terms or some ridiculous. I mean, that was a pretty big takeaway.
Yeah, it was closer to 100 years. I mean, he was there forever. I mean, he was there for decades, and It really was. I was at City Hall. I love City Hall, and was planning on staying. But then January 6th happened. It was January 6th, and the fact that he went back in there that night and refused to certify the election, I just thought that was like unforgivable. And so we announced on January 6th, a year later.
I didn't know that's what I mean, I should have known that, but I didn't know that was sort of the factor that changed your mind. Because I remember when that vote was taken, and obviously we were stuck with him as our congressman. And as Greg said, the dude wore leisure suits and had a comb over a la Rudy Giuliani 1985. So he had been around for a long time.
I always wanted to say in a debate, because we debated 3 times. I just didn't have it's just also not my brand, but I wanted to say, like, the only thing Steve Shabbat, it lists all the things that we had that we disagreed on, right? And then say the only thing we have in common is that we're both bald. I just don't lie about it.
You chose to honorably be bald, all right? I mean, again, he chose, like, his comb over started on his ears over here. And it was like a Donald Trump, I always use, to me, the person who's best described it as Penn Jillette, who, was on the Celebrity Apprentice and referred to Donald Trump's hair as piss cotton candy is what he called it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you want to engage in saying that or not, Greg, but
no, I don't understand Trump's hair. I've never understood it. I mean, I just don't get it. I don't think, why does he do it? Doesn't matter.
Do you think it's a natural sort of substance that grows here on Earth?
Like
if you see the Venom movies, it could have come down.
Yeah, I don't know.
We could spend the entire hour talking with Congressman Landsman about Donald Trump's hair, all sorts of other stuff. But maybe
can I ask him before we go to the
ahead.
next thing, though, one very important question?
Yeah.
I know this is actually the most important question about Greg's reelection. Greg, Joe Flacco, good move or not a good move?
I'm fine with it. Like the Bengals. So for those of you who are not following Bengals football, Joe Burrow went down. Our backup, Jake Browning, did well last time Joe Burrow went down. He has done very badly the last 3 games. The Bengals felt like they needed to make a change. They got Joe Flacco, who played for the Ravens and was really good for a long time, but is now sort of just hanging out in Cleveland. So I guess
right.
I asked my son, I was like, does he start this weekend? He's like, well, it's not a long drive. Like, it's a 4-hour drive. So I think it's fine. I don't really know what a few draft picks is going to do. Like, we're notoriously bad at drafting anyways. And it seems like the Bengals are trying to save this season here,
Right. No, it does. Right.
So, I'm in. I'd rather have this. When I watch Jake Browning of the last 3 games, it's like, I know he played professional football, but it doesn't seem like it.
See, this is why I like Greg. Greg is actually willing to say things.
You know what I mean? In the last 3 games, you're like, this guy played professional football a couple seasons ago, did well when Burrow went down. But it is so slow. He's not seeing plays.
Right.
Like at one, I don't know, was it last weekend where he threw the ball? Both of his interceptions last week were thrown at the defender. Like the defender just was like, oh,
hey,
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
See, I could get Greg talking about all this stuff for a while, but we won't. David, I'll kick it to you, and you
right.
Start with and Greg, I don't know if you and David ever met before. Greg Landsman.
Honored to meet you, Greg.
Honorable.
I've watched your career the last several years, and congratulations.
Thanks,
and David Schuster, who won't admit it, but Emmy-winning MSNBC former host. Yes.
So Cliff and I, before you came on, we were talking about the Epstein files, and my sense that based on Pam Bondi's testimony, that there actually are photographs and lewd stuff, because otherwise she would have just said, no, it doesn't exist. And she sort of hedged. What's your sense? I mean, there's a couple of Democrats in Congress who are starting to say that they think the Republican caucus is actually terrified. That explains why Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tom Massey, Nancy Mace, those are the 4 that have joined the discharge petition, but that there are others who are faced with the vote would probably vote to release the files. What's your sense about the folks across the aisle in terms of where things stand with the Epstein files?
Yeah, I think they're becoming, increasingly frustrated. They don't have a leg to stand on, right? Like, this is just basic transparency on one hand, and on the other hand, it's justice for victims who include that include people who were 13, 14, 15 years old and were trafficked and raped. And it's, if you haven't seen the Epstein documentary, like, it's called Filthy Rich. It's one of the most, it's an incredibly well done documentary, but Filthy Rich is, I think, a really important title, because this is one of the things that makes this story so important, is that you have in this country right now a group of people who have become so rich that they are doing whatever they want, and they seemingly run the government now, right? I mean, with Musk and Trump, yep, and all these other billionaires, like, they're running things and they're getting away with whatever. I don't know if you saw this, but this they just shot this priest in the head with a rubber bullet, right? Like, was
it Chicago, or was this?
I don't know if that was in Chicago or in Portland, but it's every day they seem to be getting away with all kinds of terrible things, including the big fight right now over healthcare, right? They decided that they wanted to pay for these tax cuts for the super wealthy. They were only willing to do $2.5 trillion worth of deficit spending, which meant that they had to find the money somewhere else to pay for these tax cuts. They went after Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. They went after people's health care, and now they're having to deal with it in the shutdown, because it's all about healthcare, and people are realizing these folks took their healthcare away. Point is, I think a big piece of this is that you have these people who become filthy rich at our expense, right? Like, the money came from somewhere. It came from us, and they're doing terrible things. And Epstein is one example. And yeah, I think they would, if it were any other situation, any other president, every single member of Congress would sign this discharge petition and get a vote, but they wouldn't need to, because any other speaker would just say, of course, release the files. It's insane that Johnson, who claims to be this like devout Christian, doesn't want these files released.
So did Jimmy Swaggart, and so did Ted Haggard, and so we can go through a long list of those types who've claimed to be devout. Sadly, it seems like it's often covering for something. But what you just said there, Greg, and what's, to me, why you're a friend on one level, but why I do really love you as a politician, is that is the message that I just, please, if you can call up Jeffries. I mean, when I hear these things like, oh, people only care about this, or people only care about that, or whatever. And to me, there's a narrative, and it has the benefit of being true, which is, there are people that are beyond accountability, that are billionaires. Epstein was, and Elon Musk, and these people are weird too. That part Kamala got it right, trying to point out how strange these people are. Well, and Peter Thiel, who's building a database on all of us through Palantir. If the money that they are yanking away, so if you just tell people you're losing your health care, that's terrible, but that's half the message. The message is, we're fighting for your healthcare. We're fighting because they're taking food out of your kids' bellies, in SNAP, with SNAP cuts and all this. And the most, as obscene as that is, they're doing it so Elon Musk can get another yacht. And so Peter Thiel can spend more money on trying to live forever, or whatever freaky thing he's up to at this point. And, so they can cover up for Epstein. It's the easiest message, and it connects democracy to economics. People say, well, people only care about economics. You can't have a fair economic system when you have a couple billionaires rigging the whole thing. So they're wrecking democracy, which is wrecking our economy. These are intertwined. And this, to me, seems to be such like the most obvious Democratic message. You just said it. I've heard others say it. Why are we not repeating this everywhere all the time?
I don't know. I mean, I talk about it everywhere, because at least for my brain, like, I have to understand like why something is the way it is. Like, how did we get here? And I've been working on this sort of like, okay, how do we get out of it plan? What is our governing document? What is our Project 2025? And, it's all of these bills that essentially do one big thing, which is to unrig this political and economic system that is now set up to benefit almost exclusively the super wealthy, right? Like you can trace all of our issues back to this one big problem, which is the systems got rigged. In particular, the political systems and the economic, and our economy got rigged for the super wealthy and the powerful, and it was intentional. They worked this, and they worked it over decades. And a big piece of it was, about democracy. They got the Supreme Court they wanted. The Supreme Court they wanted said, look, got the voting rights law, so we can do voter suppression all over the country. Unlimited dark money, get rid, through Citizens United, like corporations and big money people be able to do whatever they want and not disclose any of it. All of that created a political dynamic where they were able to then pay for politicians that got in there and just destroyed the things that are near and dear to us, including a tax system that now overwhelmingly favors the super wealthy at the expense of the rest of us. And this last bill was a $4.5 trillion bill that provided enormous tax giveaways to the super wealthy, paid for by cutting healthcare for tens of millions of Americans. That's what's happening. And Thiel, to your point, his ethos, which he sort of got Vance and others on board with, is, look, it's better if a few billionaires run the country. In fact, it would be even better if we get to a place globally where a few billionaires run the world. That's what he believes.
Right. That Curtis Yarvin garbage. He said at one point, this is a 5, 6, 7 years old, but they asked him about democracy, and he said democracy gets in the way of capitalism, essentially. Right. So we need to eliminate democracy.
And I think right now, I think people sort of see. I'm frankly a little bit surprised the way the polling is coming in, because it seems like the polling is really clear that people see the government shutdown as the fault of Donald Trump and the Republicans, who are simply wanting to literally kill people. But that may be too, I don't think they intentionally want to, but are literally going to kill people.
They will allow people to die. That's certainly a fair way of saying it.
The message seems to be cutting through. So what then, in terms of how the government shutdown ends? Do you wait as a Democrat? Do you wait for the Trump administration, for the Republicans to cry uncle, or to try to negotiate? Where does this go?
Right now, there's a few members that are negotiating, I think, in good faith. It's not the leadership. Unfortunately, like Johnson won't talk to Hakeem, even though Hakeem is like ready to negotiate. Like and Johnson and Hakeem have done this before, where they're Hakeem is so easy to work with, and Thune and Schumer could get this done. Thune and Schumer and Johnson can't do anything without Trump's blessing.
Right.
If Trump says, go get a deal done, they'll go get a deal done. If Trump says, don't get a deal done, in fact, don't even have Congress, which is what he told Johnson. So, because it's a two for one. He can't have his members up here making, fools of themselves, even though Andy Biggs did it yesterday, on Twitter by saying, let's just get rid of Obamacare altogether.
Well, Andy Biggs is kind of an expert at that. You got to give him credit for the fact that it's a genre he's helped pioneer.
But they won't, because we're not in session. He refuses, even though he can do it in pro forma, which is that we just gavel in and out just so that we're.
Yep. We talked about this earlier too, right?
He will not, swear in this newest member, because that's 218, and then all of a sudden he has to do a vote on the Epstein files. But to your question, yes, there are a few rank and file members. I'm one of them on the House side. A few Republicans, a few Democrats, although it's really there's a handful of senators that are working on it. And if they get a deal done that protects people's health care, particularly the ACA subsidies, because that's the most immediate, then, it forces Thune's hand, and he, I think, has to give them a vote. And that probably crosses the 60%, 60 vote threshold. That puts pressure on the House. So all of this could happen with zero presidential leadership, meaning that Trump didn't do anything except.
Which sounds about right for him, right?
Which essentially, like And House Republicans didn't do anything.
So as I hear you in terms of how this plays out, Thune says, okay, we'll give you a grant, we'll give you a vote on extending the ACA subsidies. We'll have that vote in the Senate. It gets the 60 votes necessary to both have debate and then pass. And then it goes back to the House, and then the House has to sort of act on that. And for having that vote, is that what causes the Democrats to then say, okay, we'll give the votes for the CR? I
think it would have to be tied. It's a CR plus fixes to healthcare. And it's expanding the ACA. It's probably a bunch of other things. The ACA, there are some changes that need to be made to those subsidies, anyways. And so they're working through that. Maybe some stuff on the provider tax, some of the most immediate Medicaid stuff. And then I think if a few members of the Senate, Republicans and Democrats get a deal done, I do think it forces them to forces Thune to put it on the floor. And that would be healthcare plus reopening the government.
Gotcha. So I've got one or two questions. One is the studies that I've seen, it's, and this is, I'm just talking about real politic here, not cruelty for the sake of cruelty. But 65% of Republicans are the ones who rely on the Obamacare subsidies.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought to yourself, and again, this isn't, it's just about teaching a lesson. It's about that maybe just, okay, you voted for this. This is what you wanted. And it's not that we want you to go without them, but maybe if their own voters start losing them and start demanding them, that maybe that they'll realize what they've done.
Correct. Yes.
Because it feels like we often bail them out of the worst consequences of the stupid mistakes they make constantly.
Which is what we'd be doing right now. But
I know, that's why I'm weighing it. I'm not saying there's an easy answer. I'm just asking your thoughts.
I'll do it every time because I in the end, like, politics aside, giving people health care and taking care of people is the most important thing. That's why we do public service. But yes, we are bailing them out. It is an 80-20 issue. 80% of Americans support the extension of these subsidies. The majority of them, if not the vast majority of the subsidies, go to folks in Republican districts, though that shouldn't matter. It only matters because, Trump has made money to, blue areas an issue, even though that's so un-American and wrong. But we would be bailing them out of being on the wrong side of an 80-20 issue. Remember, they voted to cut these subsidies a couple months ago in order to pay for tax cuts. They refused to negotiate with us on this before the shutdown. They refused to negotiate with us now. They're saying, well, we'll negotiate after. Wait a minute. So you rammed this through without a single Democratic vote, these cuts, in order to pay for tax cuts for the super wealthy. You wouldn't negotiate with us before. You won't negotiate with us now. And you want the American people to believe that you're going to negotiate with us after? Like, that's absurd. And no one's buying it. So I think, like,
Trump, especially considering Trump has not proven himself, should we say, to be an honest human being, that maybe getting what you need first, and rather than just trusting I'll take care of that later, might not be the way to go.
Yeah, and the irony on Trump is that he's like, he tries to pretend to be a non-politician, but he's the biggest politician of all politicians, and he sees that 80-20 number, and I think he desperately wants the Senate to get this done and resolved so that you don't have to deal with it anymore, because he's already underwater, across the board, and the healthcare thing may pull him under 35. And once he starts to see his numbers in the low 30s, he loses a lot of power.
Definitely true. I want to ask one more thing, and then I want to kick it to you, David. And again, this makes this a bigger issue, but I had advocated in the past, and I have, for tying, and one of your colleague in the House, but in the Senate, spoke about this, Senator Chris Murphy, saying, are we going to fund the very people that Donald Trump is going to send to hound me, harass me, intimidate me, come after me? A friend of, let's say, the program of mine, Will Bunch, who's a great columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, wrote about this too. Did you ever think of there being a demand that Trump say, okay, and they all say there will be no more troops in our cities, being that posse comitatus, crossing the Rubicon, use whatever phrase you want to use. That is in a list of many dangerous things they've done. That's about as dangerous for our democracy as exists. And if we don't use this leverage on that, how the hell are we going to get them to stop doing this?
Elections. And I know that there's questions and people are worried about our democracy. I am one of those people, but you just fight until, you get on the other side of this, and we will get on the other side of this. And some of it's in the meantime, litigation and organizing and demonstrating and all of the things that you're seeing.
Yeah.
As it relates to negotiations, one, he's never going to do that. And two, I think it's entirely appropriate to talk about it, but in a negotiation like this, in order to win, and winning is, part of it is all about public opinion, and you got to win over voters. And it's a communications game. You have to be focused. And I think the focus on healthcare, one, it's the most immediate, it's life and death. And two, it is breaking through. It's something that
clearly with the messaging, with the numbers out there, it is breaking through. So.
And that's what we need. We need a win. And I think a win on this does harm him. But more importantly, it gets people their healthcare. I had it was an ABC reporter. I don't want to pick on this person, but yesterday,
we pick on reporters on here all the time.
All the time.
I don't
corporate mainstream media at this point has largely failed us in so many ways. You can't say that. You need them, Greg. It's all good.
I mean, I had done Fox, MSNBC, and it was ABC was like my third interview on Monday, and I thought ABC would be the most neutral. I don't know. And maybe she was being neutral. But she said, what did they get? What did they get in return? You want the Medicaid cuts reversed and the Affordable Care Act subsidies extended. What do Republicans get in return? And I said, they get to help provide health care to their constituents. I mean, what do you mean? It's insane.
A democracy that's at least semi-functioning.
But you don't get anything in return like that. That to me suggests how bad their position is. We're not asking for anything other than healthcare for the American people.
Right.
It's nuts.
Right. What are you supposed to give them? Okay, we'll give Jeff Bezos another wedding. He wants some more variety from Venice. Next time we'll make sure it's Istanbul.
Correct.
I mean, go ahead.
Greg, are there tell me a little bit, and this sort of gets to this sort of point you're making. Are there Republicans, that you're friends with, that you chat with sort of on an off-the-record basis, and do they acknowledge some of the reality here that not only is this really just about healthcare for Democrats, but do they also acknowledge the difficulties of a president of the United States who clearly seems to be off his rockers, that he can't remember Hakeem Jeffries' name one day, he can't remember Ghislaine Maxwell the next day, he seems like he's suffering from dementia, he constantly lies. Do they acknowledge that?
Yes and no. It's it's interesting. They're frustrated. I mean, I you can tell by some of the things they say that they never wanted to do the healthcare stuff in the first place. They got backed into those cuts, right? They weren't sitting there trying to fix Medicaid or deal with these ACA things. Remember, they were given an assignment by Trump and leadership that they had to find $1 trillion in order to pay for these tax cuts. And I know a lot of these folks. I work closely with them on, Energy and Commerce, which is the committee that does healthcare. They didn't want that assignment. But then given the assignment, I think they figured, well, we've got to do it. Or let's see if we can find a way to justify doing it. And they did in their own sort of warped way. But now, they would do they like the ACA subsidies. They make sense. Helping people pay for their health care is entirely appropriate. They, like us, actually believe it should be money that goes to individuals, not these insurance companies. Right now, the subsidies go to the insurance companies. So that could be one of the, silver lining changes that come out of this is like people get the cash to help pay for their health insurance as opposed to it going to the insurance companies. But I think their challenge, I know their challenge is, you got to deal with the speaker, and going against the speaker is hard, or the leader. I have not found that to be true for me, because if you just start by saying, I'm going to vote my district, and you don't back away from that, people expect that of you, and they don't bother you. And I think some of these folks,
saying standing up to Speaker Mike Johnson hasn't been difficult. Is that what you're saying?
No, or Hakeem sometimes, like if Hakeem,
because if Mike Johnson, if you got him a better program to monitor his son's porn, he might like do whatever it is that you needed him to do.
He is so obsessed with Trump, though. Like,
he really does seem like Trump's the guy he dreamt of being, which is so sad in so many ways.
A little bit taller, a baller, a shot caller.
If you cross Hakeem, I mean, it's supposed
to for me, like, I'm usually with Hakeem. Hakeem and I are very close, but like there are times where like he will sort of say like, "Hey, this is where I think the caucus should go," and if it's not 100% where I am or where my district is, he knows that that's how I'll vote. Mm-hmm. We're not as, like they love their unity. They think and it's like, well, sure, unity is just strength, but like, you also have to push back on each other once in a while. Otherwise, you go down some pretty dumb roads.
Well, right? Sure.
And that's so I guess that was a very long, very terrible answer to your very simple question, which is, yes, there are these folks. And, when it's just me and them, they'll say, yeah, we want to extend these things, but we've got to be, careful about getting out too far in front of the speaker.
How about getting in front of the president? I mean, are they worried about Donald Trump and his wrath, or?
Yes. Yeah. They would never say it. But like politically, it's their primary voters. They just don't want to deal with it.
Look at if you look at it, this is why Massey's been sort of an amazing exception, because Trump challenged him. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I believe he did last election, was trying to undermine him. And Massey is so popular in his district that he's the only one I know of so far in a congressional race like that. Like even Liz Cheney, lost in Wyoming after Trump opposed her. Massey was able to win. And I think in a way that kind of freed him, because he's like, hey, and we can say this on the show and you don't have to go, but hey, fuck you, pal. I can do whatever I want. I don't need your endorsement.
If Trump loses that primary, that's a big, big loss for him.
Yeah.
But, we'll see what happens. But if Massey also, and this is one of the reasons I think this is something you should look for in an elected official. He doesn't need the job. Like he's doing what he believes is right. And I
wasn't a huge fan of the Manson family Christmas
card
that he took. But I agree overall, yes.
But I think you want more and more politicians who do the job because they believe in it, but don't need it. I just see so many of these politicians in general, who will hold on to the job for dear life. And you're like, why? Like,
tell us some names, Greg. I'm just kidding with you.
but Massey's one of the people who won't.
Right.
And, he's a happy guy,
I know the dude went to MIT. I think he probably could go do a lot of things.
Like he likes being home. He's not. I think it's really important for elected officials to be okay not having the job, to lead in a way where you're not constantly worried about your job. Just lead.
Well, I'll say this. So David grew up in Bloomington.
Yep.
So if David can go back to Bloomington, you're back here in Cincy, I'm here. I feel like we go on the craziest ass road trip of all time, drive down to see Massey. It's only like an hour from here or two. And just let's go party with Massey and see what he's really like. What do you think?
I'm fine with it. Massey is, he's a very interesting guy. Obviously, we disagree on almost everything.
Yes.
Wait, did you go to Bloomington North or South?
I went to Bloomington South.
I went to North for a year and a half.
You did? What were you doing in Bloomington?
My mom went to get her PhD, late in her career. She was a teacher, a special ed teacher for the elementary school, the middle school, the high school. And then she was like, oh, I want to go get a PhD and teach. And she got it at IU. And I went to.
I didn't even know that. Look at this connection I formed.
What grades were you there? Freshman, sophomore?
I was there my freshman and half my sophomore year.
Okay.
So,
you're a Cougar.
Yeah, Cougar. Yeah. But my sister's still in Bloomington, and my brother-in-law is Jeremy Gray, who's one of the assistant athletic directors at IU. He does a lot of the play-by-play stuff.
Oh wow! Okay, so
David's mom is still there. You guys,
my mom is still there. She was with the School of Education and then retired. And my dad was in the business school. My stepdad was at one point a dean of SPIA, and so lots of university connections. Bloomington's awesome.
Yeah, we love IU.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Knight fan. I was there when Bobby Knight threw. One of the times Bobby Knight threw a chair. I was there, and I was like, "Hey."
I have to say, and I think I've said this, Cliff, before. I think I was 7 or 8 years old when IU went undefeated those 2 seasons, 75, 76, and then won the championship in 76. And those were my formative years. And we had a lot of relatives from Canada, and they were like, "Why on earth are you guys in Indiana?" And my brothers and I could say, because it's the basketball capital of the world. And then Bobby Knight was such a clear formative figure for us. And so we all grew up thinking, motion defense and man-to-man and 5 passes before you shoot, and you keep your hair short, and
he was so disciplined. I love Bobby Knight. I thought Bobby Knight got I think he got screwed,
Well, he may have been a good dude. Throwing a chair at somebody seems a little bit out of.
By the way, when I was there, he kicked his son once in the shin, but that was his son. Well, no, it's wrong. But it was, he just, it wasn't like.
Oh, wait, are we breaking news here? Are you defending domestic?
No, let me not defend the kick, but the chair he just threw into space.
Yeah.
No, I know. I've seen that clip a million times. It wasn't like he was aiming for something.
You know what it is? I look at Bobby Knight and Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler. These were coaches of a certain era that were just so intense and so focused and disciplined and on the team. And it was a different era.
And you know what? You mentioned some of those guys like Woody Hayes or whatever. We could go for some of the other ones with a family tradition of mine at Miami of Ohio, the cradle of coaches. Like what was his name? Parsegian, and so many of those coaches came out of Miami. It's kind of insane.
Do you know what brought Bobby Knight down? Do you remember the issue in the final straw?
Okay, this is funny, so I have to put this up here.
Go ahead.
Men are too emotional.
I think we're proving that in our politics every day now.
The kid on campus said, "Hey, Knight," or something like that, and he said, "You call me Coach Knight."
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, Knight," and he grabbed him.
He grabbed his arm and said, "You call me Coach Knight."
Yeah.
Wow.
That was it.
But you know what, dude? When was that?
2000?
Yeah,
29, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's less defensible. I was going to point out that I went to what was a very sort of forward-thinking, progressive Episcopalian school in New York City growing up. And most of my teachers were like the nicest people in the world, right? I had a first grade teacher, actually. I've said this before in the past. I think somebody looked her up. Mrs. Duchovny, who had a son named David, who did okay for himself out in Hollywood. That's totally random, obviously. And she was actually, Meg Duchovny was my favorite. She was the nicest. But we had one of those old school, even though this was an Episcopalian school, Catholic teachers. And you have to imagine, for the age I was, 7, 8, I was probably around 1980, 79, somewhere in there. She hit me on the wrist at least once or twice with a ruler. I'm sure you can't imagine I was bad in class. We used to have to wear a tie, and she grabbed me by the tie a few times. So I'm not defending it. I'm simply saying that was a normal thing, because if somebody did that in a school today, like the one I was in, they'd be in a lot of trouble.
And they should be. I just remember that sounds traumatic, but I got
over it. Okay, it's not good, but
he was just trying to get the dude's attention because they were walking past each other.
Yeah,
so he wasn't grabbing him he was just saying, "Hey, call me Coach," which I don't know. I just think.
Cliff, a lot of people don't know this about Bobby Knight, but he used to raise $500,000 every year for the IU library. Like, he was huge on helping the academic side of the university. And I mean,
I think these things are important. All I was saying is, obviously, try to keep the chair throwing and the shin kicking to a minimum. But I'm not questioning his whole being. And he may have had a whole other side. I didn't spend time in Indiana. I don't know enough.
Here's one. Let me see if I can try to like explain why I think this is. I do think there are these moments where it's okay to get pissed. Like, you want to get pissed. This is one of those moments where, like, we're pissed, right? We see what's happening in our country and we're pissed. And Cliff knows this. I'm Jewish, but I went to divinity school and I got a master's in theological studies, which meant that I studied, both Jewish and Christian scripture and the Quran and other religions. And I don't think I've ever said this publicly, but one of the most relatable moments of any sort of moment in Jewish or Christian, or in the New or Old Testament, Torah or the Bible, is when Jesus goes into the temple and all these people are selling stuff, and it's just like, he's so angry and he starts flipping tables.
Yep.
And it's like, that's a relatable moment for me. Like, Bobby Knight did it because he wasn't winning a game. Fine. But I do think there are moments, and this country wants people who are going to like flip a table every once in a while to do the right thing.
That's this show, Greg. I mean, in all honesty, like, I think you and David both have known me well enough off camera to say that I'm a relatively well-adjusted guy. Can we agree on that?
Yeah.
I'm not too bad, right?
Yeah,
but I get pissed as shit on here sometimes, and I've had rants I begin off because there's no world in which, and I think I started the show off talking about this too a little bit. There's no world. Let's get Greg's description up there. There's no world in which I can hear about, a group of masked men rappelling onto a Chicago roof, then going to apartments without warrants, without knowing if anybody is there, is undocumented, legal, whatever they are, or if they're citizens. And the ones that got me were they grabbed little children, a couple of whom were almost half naked, zip tied them, took them away from their parents, and made them sit in the hallways by themselves. These kids are bawling. And at one point, an agent walks by, and this was reported. So, whether it's true or not, looked at them, started chuckling, and said, "Fuck them kids." That's a person that, I have a hard time not wanting to do mean things to. I remember Greg used to be a kickboxer. So if you ever want to go take care of that guy.
Just regular boxer.
Oh, I thought you were a kickboxer. Okay. You used to be a boxer. Like, for me, it was Taekwondo. It's been a while, but I used to do that. As a human being, if I don't get pissed about that, then I have no empathy as far as I'm concerned. If somebody ever did that to my kids, we'd have a falling down moment and I would go to prison.
I also just think it's core to like getting big things done. Like we need leaders who are going to like run through walls. Like at this point, like you got to run through walls.
So how are you going to get your pal Hakeem to run through a wall for us?
I will tell you, like over the last couple of weeks, I feel like Hakeem has been working harder than anyone. And breaking through is tough. And so I think he's finding his way because he's more of a sort of community building, get people sort of rowing in the same direction, which is great for a leader. This moment requires also being really media savvy. And I think he is making enormous headway. I mean, up until this last Schumer video, which I just think he put out. Did you see the new Schumer video?
I heard it was actually really good, but
yeah, it's like a traditional ad. So like, but yeah, it's pretty good. But I think
so if they're getting better, just to say quickly, I will fully support it. It's not like I want to be like, we must get rid of them no matter what. I just want them to show the anger we all have, and to also to message that you've done it this show, shown the anger, message the stuff that we need messaged. And I just want them doing that.
I agree. Me too.
One thing that got Cliff and I really ticked off at the top of the show, we were talking about Venezuela and these attacks on these alleged narco-terror boats. Has the Trump administration provided any evidence, any briefings, anything in the skiff to say, hey, here's how we know that these are terrorists that are coming to the United States with drugs? I mean, any of that?
Not that I know, but I should ask for a briefing next week. I will ask for a briefing next week and see what happens. My understanding is that they have not provided anything to a bipartisan group. They may have provided some information to the head of armed services and intelligence on the Republican side, but my Democratic colleagues have not gotten a briefing. But the American people haven't either. And so, it's one of those things where if you believe, I mean, if you're doing this for the right reasons, which is that, we've tried everything in terms of, keeping drugs out of this country, or at least a lot has been put on the table. And we've tried to stop these ships, and I'm going through their arguments. We've tried to stop these ships, and they won't stop, or they've evaded us, for this reason and that reason. And so we're going to sink the ships. And, that's a bold, potentially very problematic, but I'm one of these people who, have lost too many friends to, overdoses that, like, look, I want to get this resolved. I'm a big believer that you got to do it on the you got to do it on the treatment and prevention side, but the supply side, is also an issue. Like, you can't just have this stuff coming in. So
no, but we need evidence. I mean, Greg, I respect you, but evidence and due process.
That's when I was going to say. I was going to. That's where I was going. It's like, all of that said is like, if that's true, then show us. Just show us.
Right, because I think Congress would rubber stamp a declaration of war if they made the compelling argument that here's the intelligence, here's the evidence, here's why we have to do this. Republican Congress say, okay, here's your declaration of war, treat them as enemy combatants. But to not take that step suggests to me that either maybe they're not confident in the intelligence, or maybe their sources are like curveball, as Cliff and I were talking about. What appears to be the case was at least some of the Venezuelan intelligence related to sort of the same issue that we had going into the Iraq war. I mean, so there's a lack of confidence I feel that the administration has on this, which may explain why they're not going to Congress.
And I want to say one more thing quickly along those lines, which is, again, the normally very moderate and staid and sort of, whatever you want to call it, New York Bar Association just came out and referred to it as murder, which I was shocked, to be honest with you, that they used. But if they're saying that, this is not some left-wing group. This is mainstream, a group that chooses their words carefully.
Yeah,
that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, and I consider myself to be one of the more hawkish Democrats, and for me, like, part of being as sort of like comfortable using force is that you are doing it for all the right reasons, and that has to be demonstrated to the American people always, before, during, after. Like, you have to be fully transparent. That's like, I don't know how you can, nor should you be able to sort of use force in this way without telling people what's happening and providing any evidence. And so, unless I've missed something, I have not personally asked for a briefing, so I will do that. I'll ask for a briefing and see what I get, if anything. But my understanding is that they have not provided any evidence, but it also shouldn't just be limited to members of Congress. Like, the entire country should know what's happening. Because I am somebody who wants to have our military get in front of these issues. And the only way to do that in a way that is durable, sustainable, is if people believe in it. And if they don't believe in it, they're going to reject it.
Right.
And that's the problem, among other problems, with them being so secretive about this. Like, show us. Just show us.
Yeah. There's one more question I have to ask you. And I know David has to leave soon to get kids. We all have kids. We all know that whole thing. But this one's really important. And I don't know, I'm going to guess almost nobody here will know this. David may not even know this, which is, and what you're doing right now, fighting for democracy, standing up. A lot of people, again, I don't think anybody knows that you were on the list of the gunmen who murdered Melissa Hortman. And you've spoken publicly about that in the past. So I don't feel like, otherwise I would have asked you ahead of time, but you've spoken out, which is pretty scary when you put that together. How does that, because I've gotten threats and David's gotten threats, but that's a whole different level. How do you handle that emotionally? How do your family handle that emotionally? How do you do that and think about that and still continue, get up and take on this fight every day?
Well, it's a really good question. I don't think I've been asked the question that way. Faith plays a big role in it. I'm a person of faith. And so, my relationship with God is a huge part of my life. And I only hear like, keep going. You got to keep going. I think like everything else, you got to take care of yourself. And, I try to eat well. I try to sleep well. I try to be protective of my sleep. I'm a terrible sleeper, and I try to exercise. I do think you have to take care of yourself. And I worry people aren't doing that right now. I got off of social media altogether months ago, which
That's probably a good move.
It was, so like, I do think there's that piece. And then you are really careful. We're very careful about, moving around and having people there, law enforcement when we do. We're just much more careful. And for my family, like it sucked. It's something that, has kept my daughter up on more than one night where she just wakes up sort of terrified. But look, the political violence piece is real and it is solvable. So every chance you get to condemn political violence, condemn it. Every chance that you get to call out a politician who doesn't condemn it, you should do that. People should try to limit social media. And ultimately, we need a Congress, people who are going to like throw chairs when it comes to like taking on big tech and saying, get this crap out of our homes. Like you have got to manage your algorithms so that this stuff is not, just moving, throughout the country and at the speed in which it's moving. It's terrible.
I've never understood that, because even we can debate the First Amendment part of it, and I think whether disinformation is protected or not is something worth debating, because I think we've gotten extreme about that. But what I've never understood is a bunch of guys being paid to be holed up in Moldova somewhere, threatening people. That's not protected. Anybody, non-Americans outside of the country, as well as faceless, nameless bots or even people, but who don't, there's no reason why you cannot moderate and pass laws that they don't have free speech rights. And I don't understand why we haven't done that.
You can't yell fire in a theater for a reason, because it causes chaos and ultimately, injury and potentially death. And that's something that as Americans, we've all accepted. And so what happens is that these social media, companies are saying, well, we're not the ones putting the stuff on the internet or on these platforms, and anyone can post anything.
Quite literally are the ones. I don't care if somebody else writes it.
But the problem is, one, Congress hasn't updated the law to say, no, it doesn't matter. Like you're liable. And, removing the liability shield from these big tech companies is like one of my big priorities. Number two, I don't even think Congress, like somebody should take these people to court now, because the algorithm is theirs. They're the ones, they're the ones deciding what gets pushed out. And the fact that everybody saw Charlie Kirk get shot within 20 minutes, including my 15-year-old daughter, suggests that they should be held accountable for that. Like they should go into a court and a judge should determine whether or not that was okay. And if a judge says it's okay, that's fine. But the fact that they don't go to court ever is the problem.
Right. We ban child porn for a reason. It's dangerous. It encourages people to do horrific things. Well, what about showing people showing violent videos and that kind of, like real snuff videos, that kind of stuff. Okay. I mean, I just wanted to get I seem to agree with you, at least in everything we've talked about today, and almost everything, Greg, and I didn't even know that. So,
Hey, Greg, it has been an honor being on
Yeah.
with you. Congratulations on the work so far, and good luck on everything ahead. We're pulling for you.
You too.
what should everybody here do to support you, Greg?
Just be good to yourself. I swear to God, just, maybe take your social media, like I think podcasts, by the way, and Substacks and all that stuff, like do that. But like, just my ask is just to get off of the scrolling.
Yeah.
My ask is you continue to represent us in a way that makes us proud.
I know I should have made it more about me, but I really do want people to sort of get out of this, sort of spiral.
Well, people have met you. I'm going to hold a fundraiser for you. So you know what? They can decide if the stuff you said today, which I think is exactly the kind of thoughtful person that we want in Congress, they can decide if that's worth supporting. And
I appreciate you guys.
You can let me know. I don't know. I don't want to ask. I don't know if you keep it quiet where you are, but on air. But if you're back in the Cincinnati area, you'd let me know it so we can have one of those beer things, because that would be cool too.
That'd be fun. That'd be great.
Thanks, Greg.
Right.
We appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for being here, both of you. I know you got to leave. Both of you.
Great show as always, my friend.
All right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. I'm just going to do a little promo for our Thursday show. And he's gone. That went a little bit longer. I appreciate all of you being here so much. You have open floor to say what you want to say. Again, I'm biased and I don't try to hide it. Greg has been a longtime friend, and I think I know him personally. So even on things where I politically may disagree with him, I know him to be acting in good faith and to be a really good human being. And I kind of feel like if we had more open-minded, really good human beings in Congress, then more would happen, because you wouldn't just have people who are like, how can I move up, and what can I do to get ahead, and how can I play that algorithm, and how can I make Trump happy, and like you'd have people doing the things that they need to do to be good human beings and to be helpful. And I think those things are fairly obvious, right? I mean, some of them are less so how we do them. There are different ways to get to universal health care, for example. But point being is you'd know that they should be done. It's nice because, I saw this friend go to Congress, and, he could have been anything, but I was lucky enough that I saw this friend go to Congress, and I think he's been a leader, and he's been a great voice for us to have there. So then any other questions you all have? We have a couple people here who've been members for a couple months. That is awesome. I want to make sure to promote that. I know that we're on Substack here, but not everybody who's here. There you go. We got Jim sharing some stuff about Greg and about all of us. Okay, thank you, Jim. That's awesome. But the right there at blueamp.co, I ask you to go and please subscribe. Tomorrow we have an awesome storyteller coming on, and I want to not screw this up. If you guys are familiar with Marlon Weems, who has been a longtime writer, the civil rights activist, a just terrific guy. I'm so excited to have him on. He will be on our amped up version tomorrow, amped up with Cliff Schecter. It'll be directly on Substack. So you will have to go to Substack to see that one. You can catch it later on in the week. If you're not on Substack, we tend to put it up on our other channels, but it will only be live on Substack. So I hope you'll join us there. Same bat time, 2 p.m., slightly different bat channel. One of the bat channels are on right now. How about that? Substack. There we go. Look at that, Veronica there with everything that we need, because that's the awesome Veronica. Let me give you, look at this. Look at all these members here. We got Treva, member for 2 months. Thank you very much. Sheldon Hughes, the irrepressible and always lovable Sheldon Hughes. Never misses supporting us. Gifted a Cliff's Edge membership. Thank you, Sheldon.
We got Francie. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Is it Real or Ryle? I just know I love your picture. Don't panic. Member for 11 months. Almost had you here for a year. Thank you. We got Free to Love. Member for 10 months. Another long timer, sort of. I think that's a long time when you're almost at a year. And we're going up in months here. Where Carl Jacobson, a member for 12 months, which I believe is also called a year. I think what do they only believe in counting by the months here? They don't say years. I would say thank you. That's what I'd say. You don't need to be thanking me. And so Greg's terrific. You should support him. I'm at some point gonna hold some sort of a fundraiser here, and you'll be able to do that if you want. Tomorrow with Marlon Weems, we'll be on, me and David, 2 p.m. Amped up on Substack. We're thinking about maybe adding one or two more. They'll probably be done on Substack, could be here, but one or two more lives that maybe will be shorter, less formal, as part of our future repertoire. Maybe a half hour with somebody, 15 or 20 minutes with somebody awesome. That will pop up, but that's a conversation we're in as we're sort of expanding what we're doing on Substack. And otherwise, I think we're about done, unless there's anything else anybody else wants to ask. And now I have to do my usual, which is who's coming with me? Come on. Don't make me Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me? It is. Look at that. Francie's right there with a $5 super sticker. Thank you so much, Francie. So we're looking for 5, right? We had 5 of you who are members. I would love to have 5 of you come and support us on the way out the door for good feelings, for providing you with a great show, for all of the work we put in. As you all know, that was a very fantastic $5 super sticker. But you know what? $1.99 works. 99 cents works. Tony Phillips, great show today, Cliff. Great show from Uncle Fatty, which I love the name. So if for people think it's a great show, 99 cents, right? I don't want to ask you for anything that you can't afford, but if you do love the show, Sheldon always does this, and I appreciate it, Sheldon, a $2 super chat sticker, super chat. So if you love the show, you appreciate it, keep it going, keep supporting us, allow us to keep doing this, allow us to keep inviting great members of Congress on, allow us to keep inviting, great sort of folks. We had Joe Walsh last Thursday. We had Melissa Corrigan, former naval officer, telling us all about Pete Hegseth's abuses and her fight last week. Do we have a couple more people? Anyone else who can jump in here? We just need 3 more. As I said, $1.99, 99 cents. Come on. Don't make me stay here forever. We need it. Fancy, thank you for saying fantastic show. I appreciate that. Good show. I missed some of it, Brenda. See, you guys are all saying it's a great show. Francie was kind enough to give us a gift. I got to believe folks can afford the 99 cents. And Uncle Fatty jumps in with a $4.20, and I have to have a feeling that that might be a reference of sorts. But even if it's not $4.20, again, everything adds up to what we put in. We have a COO now, somebody that makes sure that we're running things intelligently. Fred Pogue, you may know him from over on Substack. We've got Veronica, who you see in here, who makes sure that I don't screw everything up. Carl Jacobson jumps in with a $5 gift. Carl, and you're the man. Thank you so much. And Frida Love jumps in with a $2 super sticker. And Mr. Android, it's all about the credit and the debt. Jumps in 333. You've now surpassed 10 to 11. This one goes to 11. Somebody will get that reference. And so you have actually gone above and beyond what I sought. Again, I don't do this stuff at the end to be a pain in the butt here. I just like to, first of all, I like to leave with good feelings. We gave you a good show. And so folks saying, hey, we appreciate it. That's why I ask for something small. I don't say, hey, $20 or, whatever. Every once in a while, somebody does that, and that's wonderful. But we're all sort of I look at this as we're all contributing to our media, independent media. We're all contributing to our democracy. All of this in small ways, right? So it's great getting $20 or $50 or whatever, but that's sort of my point to you, is that even somebody who's willing to invest 99 cents or $1.99 or $4.20 or whatever it might be is saying, I want to be a part of the solution. And this is what allows us to keep doing what we're doing and allows us to keep providing you, hopefully, with something that you appreciate. And as the last thing, again, if David and I want to have a shot at finding the time, which we're looking at, and maybe each of us does one of them and maybe something else. But if we want to find the time so that we can say, okay, you know what, we're going to give you some more live streams. And it's very easy to do a quick live on Substack. So it may have to be there where it's somebody for 20 minutes or something, but we're going to do something more, even if it's less formal. Like, this is the way we do it. This is how you allow us to do it, to be honest with you, because infrastructure costs money, and paying people that you hire costs money. Because I have this weird belief, unlike Walmart, that I shouldn't lock people in a back room and make them do the work for like below minimum wage, that people should be paid a fair wage so they can go out and actually live a good life. Call me crazy. All right. Frida, Insurrection Act possibly invoked tomorrow. Oh, crap. Well, we should all prepare for that. We'll be talking about that at blueamp.co if and when it happens. I think we should all expect it. Whenever Trump sort of starts floating something, he does it. Doesn't mean he has endless powers. And again, as Greg Landsman said, I think I'll finish up with this. And I'm sorry, Amos, this morning I saw you got hit up with an unexpected $250 hit. I've had a few of those, and I understand what that's like. Again, as I said, only for people that can do it. Fancy loves David Schuster. Uncle Fatty says Schuster rocks. Schuster's a freaking rock star. What do you want? I don't know why he's here with me, but he is, and I appreciate it. In any case, if there is the Insurrection Act tomorrow, again, we need to all be out in the streets. The No Kings March is coming up in 10 days. I'll start sharing links to that stuff soon. We're going to be out then, but we need to be doing everything. Everybody has a voice, as you all know. We've talked about this. If you have 5 friends on Facebook, that's 5 people you can communicate with. Last time we came pretty close, or even hit up to that 3%, 3.5% of the population, the threshold where political scientists say that, you've shown there's enough passionate people involved that you can stop an authoritarian. I mean, think of how many people Trump has screwed since then. Just think about it, with the tariffs, farms that have gone out of business, small businesses that have fallen apart. He's hurting people every day. And I wish it didn't take that, but in some cases it does. And it's leading people to join our side. That's why Greg was talking about his numbers possibly falling to 35, because they're already in the 30s. And a lot of these were his own base people. So know that, and know that, you know what? Oh, wow, I got an 11th something or other. Who else decided to be? Oh, no. Okay. I got that before, didn't I? Yeah, I knew that. Sorry. I'm in my 50s, guys. What are you going to do? Drank too much in college. Don't drink too much in college, kids. You'll pay for it later. That's it. Greg said, be good to yourselves. I'm going to say it too. Go out. Fancy, he says here, united we stand. Yes. And people are a resource that they can help you and you can help them. Call friends, get together with colleagues, support people that need help right now. Let them know you're there. If you can support them financially, if they need it, do that. If you can support them in any other way, legally, do that. Again, we win together. But also, this I'm going to require of you. Go out and enjoy yourself. Spend some of this evening, if you can, if you're not working, doing something you enjoy, whatever that may be. Read a comic, watch a show, read a book, go on a Ferris wheel, go to Paris. I like that one. Do whatever it is, but find a way, because, again, we don't always realize, by paying such close attention, the kind of mental weight that this can take on you. Look at that. Leaving for a 50th high school class reunion tomorrow. Pray for me, Mr. Android. I will pray for you, even though I'm not much the praying type. But I will hope that you have a great time. So I'll close it with what Francie said here. Find something that sparks joy. There you go. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thanks for watching our great conversation with Greg Landsman, with David Schuster. I am Cliff Schechter. This was an edition of Amped Up. And my friends, as the sun sets slowly in the west, well, you know what it is that I have to do. I must bid you a fond farewell. Okay, take care, everybody. We'll see you here again soon.